Another way to determine something's unusual, like in the previous problem, we looked at the probability. It was 90%. In this problem here, we're going to look at the mean and standard deviations because we know something's unusual if it's more than 2 standard deviations. And so in this binomial probability experiment here, we know that 80% of adult smokers start smoking before turning 18. Compute the mean and standard deviation, the number of smokers who started before 18 in 300 trials of the experiment. Interpret that mean, and then would it be unusual? So in order to do that, we need to recall from your note sheets here that we have a formula. We can't use StatCrunch on this, so this is a formula we would use. Here to use your calculator. And using this here, once you know how many trials and the probability of success, just multiply those two, and that's your mean or expected value. And then your standard deviation is the square root of n times p times 1 minus p. And then once you have those two numbers, you can go ahead and answer some questions, just like the example that I'm showing you right here, where you see 35% of all car owners have 3 or more cars. If you sample 400 households, how many would you what's the mean number of households that would have 3 or more cars? And so you just multiply that. You can see the calculations, means and standard deviations there. We can then use that to calculate or answer if something's unusual. So in this case here, what you have is, we're looking for the mean of this situation. Well, we know n is equal to 300, p is equal to 0.80. So if we had 300, we asked 300 people, how many would we expect, right? So in this case, it would just be 300 times 0.80, or you get 240. And so for the standard deviation, what you would get is n times p, 300 times 0.80 times 0.20, which is the 1 minus p, is that 0.20. And in this case, this is what you would get. I get 6.9 when I multiply this out. So you get that to standard deviation. So what's the interpretation of the mean? It is expected that in a random sample of 300 adults, 240 will have started smoking before 18. And so that's what we're looking at here. Would it be unusual to observe 255 smokers who say they started smoking before 18 out of 300? So in order to do that, we revisit what we've done in the past. We look at the distribution. The mean is 240. The standard deviation is 6.9. So from here, this is 240, 6.9. You add another 6.9 to that. And so the next one would be 250. So this number is 253.8. And then we notice that 255 would be over here. And so we know that it's more, yes, because it's more than 2 standard deviations greater than, right, 255 is more, 255 is greater than 2 standard deviations above the mean. That's the mean plus 2 standard deviations. So it would be unusual.